What is the first thing you think of when I say fairies? Now, you may be thinking about their mischievous nature, or you may be thinking about their fairy dust or their size, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to be thinking about their wings. So, shout out to my wife for this suggestion. Let's talk about fairy wings. So, the wing style is where this whole thing begins, and so you have to ask yourself, what are you going to base it off of? For me, I look no further than bugs, because bugs are small, fairies are small, and they tend to work out really well. So, there are a few different type of bug wings that I like to base off of. There's 2 real categories, and so one of them is like the butterfly, moth, and swallowtail style. The other is the dragonfly or the wasp hornet style. So the top style, which I like to call the 2-wing style, is the butterfly, the moth, and the swallowtail. They all have a top wing that is a little more triangular, kind of diamond pattern, and then their lower one, which is a more rounded diamond. Now, the reason I call it a 2-wing is because the 2 wings themselves are fundamentally different looking shapes. Now, with the second style, I call it the long wing style, is these dragonfly, the wasp hornet, and I threw a cicada one in there too, which are just long and they have multiple wings, but the wings look exactly the same. They just have different sizes. So one may be longer than the other, but they're essentially the same wing. Now I want to talk about the wing detail, what's in the wing. So because it's a fantasy creature, we don't really have to do exactly what nature would dictate all of these wings would look like, but these are just a few different examples of what those interior of the wings would look like. One style that you can do is one that I like to call just the hyper detailed style. This is sort of more like a dragonfly wing, and you have these veins that come out, that they fan out, and then you have all of these interconnected pieces, and they're not necessarily parallel by any means, but it kind of looks like a gator skin, but it's all of these little compartments. Now, another one that I like to do is one that I call kind of the pseudo feather style. So it looks a little bit like a bird wing. It's got multiple layers, but they all kind of intersect, kind of the way that feathers will fan out in the different 3 tiers that they have. Now, another one that there is, which you can see like for some other like cicadas, beetles, things like that, is like a plated style. So all of these are just really big fat segments that work. So it's like you zoomed in on that hyper detailed style. And then there's another one which is a simple fan, which you may have a couple embellishments up towards the top of the wing, and then you just fan outward, and it's much more simple. It's a little bit easier to draw and replicate a bunch. Now, movement. So obviously wings are great, but you need to use them. So one thing that I think is really key to understand is whenever you're doing the movement, you need to have just a small range of movement. I know that in actuality the wings may move a lot more, but don't let it get too high or too low, because you want to have this small range that you're drawing, and when you're replicating the wing style, doing it in that small little area makes it look like it's going very fast. So if you draw the wing, make sure you find that main line of the wing, and then you mimic the wing tip, and you just pull it down a little bit, and you allow the unfinished line to do a lot of that work for you. And you can also do the same thing for larger wings, but you can add some speed lines if you'd like to, because you have a little bit more room with a larger wing. But at the end of the day, you have to remember your wing to fairy ratio and the scale of all of it. So thanks for watching just a few little tips on fairy wings. Go check out my school for downloadable art hack guides, and remember to go draw and have some fun. Thanks, everybody.